Welcome to another episode of Breaking Kayfabe. It's your boy Saucy, and I'm here today with the Fed head of NFW, that's New Frontier Wrestling. He goes by the name Tommy, and Tommy, I'm very glad to have you here today. I hear this is your first interview ever about efedding. How's everything going?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, this is my first interview, so we'll see how it goes.
So, what possessed you to say yes when I reached out and said, hey, would you like to come on the show? Just talk about your Fed or talk about efedding in general?
Well, like I said, it's something I've never done before, and there's been a couple other, I've never been approached directly. You're actually the first one to come to me and ask, but I've had other handlers in NFW tell me, hey, Tommy, you should go on one of those efed podcast shows and talk about the place. And I'm just I don't know if it's a good idea, but what can it hurt?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of feels that way. And some people do reach out to the show and say, hey, I'd like to be on. But most of the people who come on the show, we reach out to them. We say, hey, your name is one that we've been hearing often lately, or you were mentioned by another guest on the show. And, we'd love to have you on. And I think in this case, I don't know if it was Nick Danger or Ace Guy or maybe it was Ticket that had mentioned you. But NFW is a name that I'm starting to hear a lot more. And it just made sense that I would reach out. And you're the first Fed to ever be on the show. So it's kind of a big deal for me, too.
Oh, wow.
So tell us, for folks who aren't familiar with the Fed, give us the elevator pitch. What's NFW all about?
Elevator pitch. All right, so where to start? Well, we're an angled Fed. We try to, the way myself and the rest of my staff like to run it, it's me, and then I have two other handlers that help me out. They handle the GMs on our Tuesday and our Saturday broadcasts or show, whatever you want to call it. And for the most part, we want to be a platform for, chilled, laid back people that want to come in, play the game, play their characters, tell their stories. The big pitch from us is creative control. Coming into the Fed, what story do you want to tell? Who do you want to work with? Right.
So I'm looking at your forum right now, and it looks like there's more than one brand. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have two now. It's been two for the longest time. We had three at one point up until recently. That was kind of short-lived. The longest running brands that we've had is Tuesday Collision and Saturday Trauma. Those are both they're both weekly.
Wow.
It's every Tuesday, every Saturday. Wow's correct. Shout out to the staff and the writing team, the handlers that help write matches, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do this. We had a third brand at one point. It was Thursday Night Destiny. That was every other week. But that one, it lasted a little less than a year. We got to a point where our rosters got kind of so overinflated that we were trying to let everyone tell their stories and play the game, but a lot of people weren't getting booked as often as they'd like. So we had a handler, the handler of Widow Jackson. She played with us at first, but then she stepped back as a player and offered the idea of running a third show that she would be the GM for. So that ran for about 8 months, but then we closed that show down. What is it? I've actually got the schedule up here. Yeah, our last Destiny show was in March of this year. She had some personal issues and she had to step away from efedding, so we let her do that. And if she's listening, Widow, we hope you're doing good. We miss you.
Yeah, so that seems to be the natural course of things with feds is that you start out hot, you kind of expand really quickly, and then you start thinking about, well, how do we get everybody booked, right? We got this roster everybody wants to be a part of, and then you think about doing added shows, you think about doing a second brand, and then you go through a contraction phase, right? Where
Right.
like real life happens, and then you can't produce the same content that you want to, and you have to shrink a little bit. So I don't see anything here that's really a red flag just from an outsider's perspective. And you're still running two brands, and how long have they both been running? Are you over a year at this point?
We're over. Let's see. I call it this incarnation of NFW has been running since early 2018.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah, we're really. I'm the second at a character wise. I'm the second owner of the Fed. Before that, it was a friend of mine. He ran it. NFW actually started back on. I think he said it was like the AOL role play boards in
wow,
like '96 when they started.
yeah, he's one of the originals.
Yeah, and that was before. I mean, that was before I even came in. I didn't come into around 2005. So like, they started. They started before '96, and it was him and a friend. They each ran separate feds, and then it was around '96 they combined them into one. That became the first NFW, New Frontier Wrestling.
Okay,
So that ran till about, if I remember, he said around 2001, 2002. And then, like we said before, real life got in the way. They shut down, and then they opened up again around 2005. That's when I met him. And I had no idea what efed was at the time. I knew what he like. I knew what text-based role playing was.
sure, yeah,
So the way he pitched it to me was, well, it's text-based role playing, but you're playing a wrestler or a manager, whatever you want to play. And I didn't feel comfortable at the time playing any like wrestling characters, but I was always kind of good at thinking up like storylines, booking like that. So I came in initially as like kind of on the back, like I don't want to say back shelf, kind of like I kind of helped him from the dark. Like I would help him write the
sure,
shows, pitch ideas to him.
yeah. No, I got you. You were a silent partner for a while. I got you.
More or less, yeah. So we did that for around 2005. Real life got in the way. They shut down again. He reached out to me around 2007, mid to late '07. We tried it again. And ran for about another 8 months, a little less than a year. Real life got in the way, shut down again. And then he reached out to me again in 2016. One of our friends from the past two times that we ran the Fed had actually passed away. And e-fedding was a really big like hobby, like a loved pastime for him. So this time when he reached out to me, he's like, hey, let's try to get the Fed going again, and let's do it in a way to kind of honor Tim. That was our friend's name, Tim, that
Sure.
passed away. And so this time, instead of rushing it, we kind of went slow and did like slow, careful planning. So we started talking around 2016 about it. We didn't open, we didn't start the Fed up again until February 2018. And even then, still, it was me, him, and just like a small handful of our friends that still did it.
So, how big is the roster now?
Oh, now? Ooh. We've easily, let me do a check here. I know we easily have about, handler-wise, about close to 50 handlers.
You have 50 handlers? And I'm assuming they each have more than one character?
Yeah, most of them do. Some of them don't. We have a 2-character rule. You can have one character on each show, or it could be a singles character, or you can have a tag team or a trios team. If it's just you, running that team.
Okay.
So like, if you say we have one of our handlers, they have a singles character on Tuesday Collision, but then they have a trios team over on Trauma. Technically, they're playing, 4 characters, but 3 of those are in a trio tag team together. So they're not really going for multiple titles.
Yeah, I understand. So I'm looking at your banner on the forum page, and this is something I see often with Angle Feds. A lot of female wrestlers. You got Sammy Guevara peeking his head out on the right side of the banner there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a female heavy federation?
At the moment it is. It's meant to be intergender.
Sure.
Anyone can come. Anyone can come and compete. But yeah, it just so happens that at the moment it's really female heavy.
And that seems to be the case with most Angle Feds. Is that it's very female heavy. The RP competitive feds tend to be more male dominated. Certainly, more of an even mix. So, I don't think that this is out of whack. I've been thinking myself about making an Angle character who would be female. It just seems like a better fit for that style. And yeah, I mean, everything here looks fine. So tell me what's coming up. What's the next big show that's on the horizon?
The next big show we have coming up is going to be on. I'm actually looking at our schedule calendar here. June 27th, we have our Reckoning Day 5. That's a super card for Tuesday Collision. And then right after that, we're having Brawl of America on July 4th, which is going to be both brands kind of working together. And that's going to be, in character, of course, at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you even have separate pay-per-views for each brand?
For the most part, yeah. We have, each brand has, off the top of my head, if I remember, 3 exclusive pay-per-views, and then we have a couple of inter-brand, like where it's both rosters together. Like Brawl of America is going to be one. It's actually going to be. We were supposed to do this last year, but planning, poor planning, it didn't really work out. So I made sure that, this year, it's a ridiculous idea, but I wanted it to happen. So we all got together and we actually got a plan for it. And then after that, let's see. As far as both brands working together, we're going to have Funeral and Arrangements 2, which starting last year was it's a new annual Halloween event that we have. And then,
what's it called? Funeral Arrangements?
Funeral Derangements.
Funeral Derangements. Okay.
Yeah, it's named after the Ice Nine Kills song. And then our big year-end event, basically our WrestleMania or Wrestle Kingdom, if you will. It's going to be Wrestle War, which always happens around the mid of December.
Okay.
Before our holiday break.
Right on. So you have a lot on the calendar, and it sounds like you guys have this figured out, right? You've been doing this long enough. You know the process. You've got solid handlers. You've got great staff.
Oh yeah.
You've got the forum set up. You know your format. So what about you? Who are you handling right now, and how is that going?
Well, for NFW, I handle the CEO. His name is Stephen Brody, but I didn't start running like my own characters like on the going from the FedEx side to the handler side. I didn't start doing that until around late 2018, early 2019. I made this character named Marcus Uriah Dunn, Mud for short. And his whole gimmick is I was driving home from work, and the song "My Name Is Mud" by Primus came on the radio.
Yeah.
And I just listened to it, and I was like, why isn't there a wrestler that just some wacky, crazy, could be a hardcore guy that, he comes out to this song and, somehow his name spells out mud. And I was like, you know what? I don't play anybody in efed outside my staff characters, so I'm going to try that side. And I made the character.
Okay. So now we've got Mud, who's he's on one of your brands in NFW.
No. Well, no, Mud is no. Mud. He wrestles in XIX.
Okay. And yeah, so I've seen X. Is it XIX or is that a Roman numeral? I don't know how to pronounce. What would that be anyway? Is that 10-110? Is that binary? I'm very confused.
We've always called it XIX.
Okay.
That's what the Fed head always calls it.
Okay, so how are you doing over there? I know we're here to talk about NFW, but let's talk about you a little bit. Give yourself some flowers.
All right. I'm doing all right. I've kind of XIX started out, and like Mud, he's been there from day one. Like Marcus is one of their day one guys. He was actually their first world champion. Which,
oh, nice.
Yeah, that was kind of a shock to me because he doesn't get around that much because they do monthly events. And before XIX, I just kind of had him, bouncing around on Twitter. He'd get into interactions and conversations with people. He did a couple of one-off events. People put their sign-ups out, like, hey, got this one-off event, who wants to sign up? I was like, you know what? I'll throw Mud in there. It looks like his cup of tea, hardcore, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then so XIX started, and it's run by one of our handlers in NFW, Casey Cash. You probably seen him around.
I know the name. I don't know the character very well, but I'll have to do some research.
Yeah, I would recommend him for one of your future episodes if he can get the time to.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
Yeah, we'll reach out. I mean, we're happy to have anybody on the show that's passionate about e-fedding, about competitive writing. It maybe not even competitive, just creative writing and collaborative writing. Anybody who's really into it is who we want to give a platform to here. So
yeah.
Now's probably a good time to say, who are the handlers that you love working with, that you've loved collaborating with? Go ahead and shout out to them. Let's go ahead and give them some spotlight.
Oh man, that's a long list. All right. If I forget anybody or if I leave anybody out, anyone listening, I apologize. But off the top of my head, I'm going to shout out Casey Cash again. Also the handler for Kai Morgan, also Jesse Osborne. We actually did he runs another fed as well, Zion Wrestling. And
yeah,
they went toe-to-toe with NFW last year at a crossover war event that we had. And then going back to Funeral Derangements, not this year, but so next year for Funeral Derangements 3, we're already talking about having a crossover between NFW and Slaughterhouse, run by the handler for Terra Nova.
And these are all angle feds.
Yes, these are all angle feds.
Yeah, so it's funny. Angle feds kind of operate inside a bubble or inside, on an island. And what usually happens is that your handlers might have other projects that you know about, but beyond that, there's not a whole you don't have a whole lot of need to reach out to some of these competitive feds, right? It's just a whole different creature, and I'm really gaining a respect for angle feds and the layout. It just seems like a happier existence, and I mean, you seem very pleased with how things are going, and it's great that you're supporting the projects that are done by other people and that they're staying successful for a long time. So that's awesome. I'm a big fan. Great job doing that, by the way.
I appreciate it, man. Like that to me, that's what it's all about. Like, just this game is about creative writing and working together and having fun. And if you can do that with, if you can get with each other and collaborate, do things like with what NFW and Zion did last year. Like, I mean, I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, those crossover events are cool. I mean, I'm a big AEW fan, and I'm excited for the Forbidden Door event they have coming up. The one last year was maybe my favorite show all year. It's a real treat, when you're getting something that you don't normally get. So you just have this one chance to see those talents work together. And there are some bragging rights, but really it's about these dream matches. You can put your most hardcore guy against their most hardcore guy and get this dream hardcore match.
Exactly.
It sounds like a lot of fun. And it's an exhibition, right? I mean, there's really nothing at stake. So it's all fan service, and it's fantastic.
Right.
So if everything goes the way you want it to this year, what happens before the end of the year, before your Mania event? What happens? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what do you mean exactly?
Yeah, so it's a little bit, I guess it's different, coming from a competitive perspective. Like for me, winning a couple big matches, maybe picking up a title that's the goal, right? If you're angled, you have a lot more control over what's going on. I guess you've got it all mapped out already. Like, what's going to happen before the end of the year. And that's I bet you sleep much better at night than the rest of us because of that.
For the most part, we try to keep it mapped out. Of course, things happen, real life gets in the way, and unfortunately, sometimes you might have to scramble and change plans at the last minute. We've had to do that a couple of times this year, like with the Destiny situation. That wasn't planned at all, so we had to, that happened. We had to wish Widow Jackson well, and we kind of had to scramble to, like, we got a full roster of 20 people. Well, not 20 handlers, but like 20 characters. What do we do with them?
Yeah.
Fortunately, most of those handlers were handled by people that were also on Collision and Trauma, so they understood. They cut those characters out. But then for the individual handlers, we brought them over to the Tuesday and Saturday night brands.
So what's the process for deciding who wins a match? I guess this is maybe something that I'm still a little ignorant to, but let me peek behind the curtain for a second and tell me what's the process. How do we decide if you win or if I win?
For the most part, that's where creative control of the handlers comes in. Like, the handlers get together who want to tell a story together, and for the most part, we let them kind of talk it out, plan out their segments, episode by episode, what they want to do, and they can decide who wins there at, say, this pay-per-view. And then if they want to run it back, say, like 2-3 months later, and kind of swap outcomes to where, like, the one who won the first match can give back to the other handler. Like, that's what we like.
Hey, I'm a fan of 50-50 booking, right? I'm not too proud. And And I think I'm like you. I love booking. I'm a big GM mode kind of guy. To me, that's where all the fun is. Um, it's in the fantasy booking side of it. When you get to the actual game and it's not predetermined, somebody has to walk away feeling like a loser, which sucks. But
Yeah.
when you get to control your own destiny and choose the way that that you go out, you can get both characters over. They can look the way that they want to look in the match, still walk away looking strong, which is a beautiful thing in pro wrestling. It's not always done correctly, but there are some writers who are really talented who have a way of doing that. So you've already mentioned a lot of the handlers that you have worked with. Is there anybody left that you haven't worked with that you would like to?
Um,
It's okay if you say no at this point. I mean, I understand you guys are very busy, right? With the full schedule, you've got 8 shows a month. You probably don't have a lot of time to think about recruiting because you've got so many personalities now that you're just kind of juggling them all, trying to keep everybody satisfied. That's got to be a chore in itself.
it can be, yeah. Like we have so much going on. Normally, I don't have the time to stop and think about, who I'd like to work with. But I'm down to work with anybody, really. As long as they're, just chill, no drama.
Sure.
Like I've got Mud and XIX, and then one of my newer characters. Well, a couple of my newer characters actually. I have Michaela Calloway, That's my one female character that we were talking about. Everybody, Angle Fed always seems to be kind of female heavy. I have her over in hybrid wrestling.
Okay.
And like I said, like anyone that wants to work with her, I'm down. And then same for my character in Zion Wrestling, Jack the Ripper Morrison. He's, anybody wants to work with him, just let me know.
How many different wrestlers are you running right now?
Wrestlers right now, it's just those three. It's Marcus, Michaela, and Jack.
Okay. And which one is your favorite one? People say a lot of times your main character is the one that's most like you, except you turn the volume up to 11. Is that pretty accurate for any of these characters?
Yeah, I would say my main front runner right now is Jack, but the one that I feel like I've kind of put a little bit of myself in would be Mud, Marcus.
Uh-huh.
Because like he's the one that I've had the longest, and he hasn't done much outside of his XIX World Title run, because he doesn't really. That's the only Fed I've had him in, and they run monthly. He had his moment of fame, and then now he's kind of he's not on the back burner, but he's just.
He's rebuilding. I understand.
More or less, yeah. He's still there.
Yep. Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to time here, but I want to open up the floor. Is there any other projects you're working on that you want to talk about? Anybody else you want to shout out to, or anything you want to get off your chest? I'll open the floor and just give you the mic.
Well, let me finish my shout outs. Like I said, just anybody that anyone that I miss, I apologize. But like everybody in NFW that's listening, handlers, staff, I love you guys. You're the ones that keep this Fed going. You are the foundation and the pillars. Like, without all of us working together, it would crumble.
Who else have we got?
Let's see. I'll give another shout out to Shane, who runs Hybrid Wrestling or Hybrid Revolution. Another shout out to Casey for XIX, Tara, Slaughterhouse Wrestling, Kai Morgan for Zion Wrestling, and let me also give a shout out to Shep, head runner for the Splat Network that ran for a few years. I know they just recently shut down, but it feels like they've been around forever, and it's kind of sad to see him go.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing an interview with him later tonight, so we're gonna hear from Splat pretty soon here.
Awesome!
Yeah, so if you're listening to this video today on YouTube, come back tomorrow or maybe on Thursday. I don't know which day it's going to be this week, but we will have Splat on here to try just kind of do a goodbye, speech, Hall of Fame speech, what have you, and it should be good. I think everybody's got questions and has love for what they've done over there, so that ought to be fun.
So. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, totally.
They all do.
All right, well, I think this is where we should go ahead and wrap it up. So on behalf of New Frontier Wrestling and the handler of Marcus Uriah Dunn, Michaela Calloway, Jack the Ripper Morrison, his name is Tommy, and my name is Saucy from This Is Awesome Promotions. Thanks for coming around. Thanks for listening to another episode of Breaking Kayfabe. We appreciate you. So continue being excellent to each other, and we'll see you all again down the road.